All right, this is pretty interesting. Former President Donald Trump has a new spokesperson. His spokesperson had been that guy, Jason Miller, but Miller stepped down last week. And the new spokesperson is a woman named Liz Harrington. Liz Harrington used to be the spokeswoman for the Republican National Committee. She's a real bomb thrower. And Harrington's big qualification appears to be that she supported a whole bunch of lies about the 2020 election, which Trump liked, including the lie that President Biden's strong performance in some Democratic counties clearly was a sign that there must have been some kind of election fraud. And one of the things that we've been talking about is why might it be that even now so many Republican elected officials are either standing by Trump or at least not criticizing Donald Trump? And it seems pretty clear that the reason is they see him, probably rightly so, as still wielding lots of power, even for their own possible reelections in 2022. And they don't want to burn a bridge until they know they're not going to need to drive over that bridge anytime soon. So Donald Trump announces this new total suck up, brown nosing spokeswoman, says that Harrington is a fighter, apparently a fighter for completely bogus conspiracy theories. And Harrington is just off to a blazing start. She appeared on, I don't even know what this is, the Real America's Voice show, Just the Truth. The truth is that the show is all lies. And in this clip, Harrington says that the January 6th Trump riots were a peaceful protest among many other lies. You'll notice also that the interviewer is former, I guess it's former Trump lawyer, or was she Trump's lawyer? You know, but we never really know. Sometimes she was, sometimes she wasn't. Jenna Ellis. She's the one that caught COVID while traveling around the country with Rudy Giuliani, pushing completely bogus voter fraud stuff. So let's jump right in. This is Trump's new spokeswoman, Liz Harrington. Here we go.
Oh, absolutely. And again, we've seen it. There's such a void. I mean, you're not going to get it from the Biden regime because everyone knows he's not actually running things.
So there's two things here that are important. The Biden regime is another phrase that they've started using. And this is, of course, part of their idea that they want to push, that the Biden administration is some kind of dictatorial, communist, government controls everything sort of administration. So Biden regime is one thing we're hearing from them. The second piece is the idea that Biden isn't really running the show. And the idea, so this is actually twofold. There's the big story and then the little one. The big story is it's the Biden dementia story, that it's really Kamala Harris or someone else who's running the administration. But this happens to fit perfectly with anti-Semitic stuff for Republicans as well. And what I mean by that is the concept of a behind the scenes Jewish puppeteer pulling the strings of American government. That's a classic anti-Semitic trope. And so there's also sort of some symbolism there as to why that's so appealing to many on the right. It's not overtly anti-Semitic, although there were, these things floating around about, a lot of Jews here, Ron Klain and Janet Yellen, and I don't know who, Blinken, I don't remember who else. So it's all kind of part of this package, and it doesn't always have to be overtly signaling Jews, but the idea of like the real people pulling the strings behind the scenes, it's implicitly part of an anti-Semitic trope. All right, let's continue.
And it's so important at this time in our country. I mean, we have no equal justice under the law right now at the federal level.
That's completely untrue, other than if you mean that we have a two-tiered justice system where the rich and the powerful are in a different sort of class of their own. What she means is certainly not true.
I mean, just look at what they're doing with the Justice Department. They didn't look into any of these irregularities. Oh, no, that's not the federal government's role, right?
It's literally not. It's literally not the role. And these are the very same people who constantly insist elections are run at the state level, which is why we should be allowed to restrict voting however we want. We shouldn't have the federal government involved in any way in how elections take place. No Voting Rights Act, no nothing, until all of a sudden they say, well, we have six or seven, bogus election fraud claims. Why isn't the federal government now getting involved?
The state's role. And then all of a sudden, here comes a forensic audit authorized.
Forensic audit, by the way. Come on.
By the Constitution. And here comes the corrupt Justice Department. I mean, and we're talking about peaceful protest.
It was not a peaceful protest. If anything was not a peaceful protest, it was the January 6th riots, which now has about 400 criminal defendants.
You had January 6th, they opened the doors of the Capitol, which is supposed to be, I mean, we've both been there. It's not an easy building to get into.
Well, that is, of course, not what happened. First of all, protesters physically breached the door. And secondly, for their own safety and to avoid tramplings, officers had no choice but to get the hell out of the way. So every detail is being misstated here.
You know there's that many people. They open the doors and people walk through. Obviously, we're not condoning breaking property or violence.
Oh, you're not?
Some people just walked in. And now they're being kept for misdemeanors in some political jail. I mean, what is happening here? What about the people that burned down St. John's Church?
St. John's Church, by the way, was not burned down. And that is yet another one of the distortions and lies here. So in all seriousness, they are going to continue trying to rewrite the story of what happened on January 6th. We can't let them do it. St. John's wasn't burned down. It was not a peaceful protest. And consider how far things have gone that Donald Trump's new spokeswoman, who is the former Republican National Committee spokeswoman, sounds more like QAnon than she sounds like Mitt Romney, just a kind of milquetoast Republican that we've come to know. More of this. And by the way, they continue these conflicting narratives of nothing really happened on January 6th. But if it did, it wasn't Trumpists. It was people pretending to be Trumpists. That also is a narrative that continues. So for now, as you see, former RNC spokeswoman is now Trump's spokeswoman. The Republican Party seems, at least for now, completely fine, staying completely associated with Donald Trump. One of our sponsors is Vincero Watches, giving you 15% off. A high-quality wristwatch is the perfect way to elevate your style. Own at least one watch that makes you feel great when you put it on. You can often see me wearing my Vincero watch on the show. Mine is the gunmetal vessel model. I'm a big fan of the metallic look of the face of the watch. I like the silicone strap. You won't find a better made watch for this good a price anywhere else. When you put it on, you know you got more than you paid for. Vincero believes in crafting super quality watches from high-end materials, but selling them at fair prices, which is why they have over 26,000 five-star reviews. And they stand behind every watch they make with a 1-year return policy and 5-year warranty. They'll give you 15% off everything in their store and free shipping at davidpakman.com/watch. Use the coupon code Pakman.